Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be about a pattern change. It's a pretty large pattern change. We'll be bringing quite a bit of cool weather to the US. First frosts, first freezes, and it's just very exciting stuff. And this one seems to be pretty prolonged. Oh, there's a clock again. This one seems to be pretty prolonged as it will last into parts of November, even into mid-November possibly. And the models, yes, they have been, kind of going back and forth, but generally they have been showing a pattern change on the cooler side. They haven't been, showing a heat wave. They may be disagreeing on the magnitude of the pattern change or the exact placement of the coldest conditions, but overall they're a pretty good agreement about where the cold temperatures will be, the coldest temperatures will be. So that is that. So let's just get right into this video. So right now we're looking at the GFS model, and I apologize about the clock if you really find it annoying. Many people actually are fine with it, and it just happens that I record it at times when it goes off. But I digress. Let's look at the tropical system right here. If you live along the Gulf Coast, it's not going to be too strong. I mean, yeah, the winds are going to be 60, 70, 80 mile per hour tops, but this could definitely still it could intensify more. I'm not saying it won't, but basically just stay tuned to your local weather authorities. They know the best. They know the evacuation orders and, if to evacuate, and when to evacuate and where. So stay tuned to those, but it seems heavy rain is on its way. I don't think evacuations will be mandatory, but, it's always just better to have it as a precaution. So notice how we see a big storm coming out of the Pacific Ocean, the biggest ocean in the world. And you could see a lot of precip across the northwest, the mountainous northwest into Washington, Oregon, and this basically is that storm taking shape. Once it heads out into the plains, out of the mountains into South Dakota, you can see it erupts into a fairly strong system, not as strong as we thought earlier. I mean, the isobars are still going to be pretty darn packed. You could see some strong winds behind it. The tighter these isobars are, the tighter the gradient in pressure, and that's when the winds pick up, because they want to fill in the areas where low pressure is, kind of like in order to form equilibrium. And you could see that there's a nice cold front with this very powerful winds, possibly straight line wind damage if some severe weather forms. Otherwise though, just a all out, a classic fall storm, pretty strong in it. You can see it brings a little bit of snow to the Canadian provinces and parts of eastern Canada, but you could see that basically let's see right here, quite a bit of chillier air is set in behind it, but maybe not as much as some of the GFS model runs earlier were showing. They were showing it a little bit more aggressive now. It seems like another system, maybe a semi-system, not really that organized until it reaches Canada, but you can see right there produces a little bit of snow on the backside of it, and that could warm things up right after this system, preventing from this first system bringing in too much precip. And also this is at Tuesday, October 22nd. Some people have been wondering if I could go a little bit slower, and yes, I apologize. I do a little, I kind of go fast through this, but the date is always up here. I don't know if you can even see that from this. Let's see if we could just zoom in on this thing, and let's see if that helps. Monday, October 21st. And always these, if you're confused about this, 12Z is always not 12 o'clock at noon. It's always 5 hours prior to that. So 12 would be 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, around that time frame in the morning. And then 18Z, what the model run right here is, that's when it comes out at around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's kind of that model run. So it's not like 6 o'clock. I mean, it is like technically, but it's always 5 or 6 hours behind. And look at that. We see some pretty chilly air behind that setup. doesn't really dive too far into the south, and the reason for that is we see a pretty large system start to take shape across the south next weekend. This could bring another blast of heavy rain, you know, not tropical like at this point, it doesn't seem, but it moves into the northeast, and look, I mean, a huge just slug of moisture. This thing is pretty big, and it could probably produce quite a bit of precip, and you can see that kind of hinders the cold air from reaching the south too far, and then we see the coldest air setting up to the north, but right behind it, this system, after it passes through, we could see that a little bit of that cold makes its way down. This is around that Halloween time frame. This is Wednesday, October 30th. Now Thursday, we passed through Thursday. At this point, which this will definitely change, it seems like Halloween will be just cold and dry for, I mean, if this were to pan out, this would be one of the driest Halloweens ever. I mean, look, throughout the day, basically just about nothing throughout the United States. Not even the Northwest, maybe a little bit of snow showers across the Great Lakes, some lake effect snow showers. Otherwise, very quiet. But again, that'll probably still change. But then notice we could get a little bit more chillier behind it, but not as great of Arctic blasts or cold fronts as like some of the earlier models are showing, but that's still going to change, obviously, as the models have been going back and forth. Like, let's just go back to the previous GFS, and you can see this one brought in much more chillier air behind it. As that southern system, I mean, if this thing were to form, it's just a beast. Look at that thing. So much precip to it. So much precip, and it's huge. And notice also how the cold air is positioned more to the south with this model run. So, you know, that's how things are going to change from model run to model run. Let's look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies, and let's just see let's go to the newest model run. This is kind of like the warmer version of the models that have been in the past couple of days, and notice how it's been basically a mix of warm and chilly days based on wherever storm tracks right behind it. Especially in the fall and winter time, we see a area of cooling, and that's, you know, pretty pronounced by many systems. You can see that behind this system right here. I mean, out ahead of it, very warm conditions. Behind it, a cool blast of air. Not as significant maybe as thought earlier, but then you can see maybe another one potentially reaching its way down into the southern U.S. as well. So a mixed pattern, but if let's look at the GEFS ensembles, because that's kind of like the all throughout average of many models, and you can see that the overall anomalies are pretty negative. They're showing some chillier temperatures, which is what we've been, hinting and showing at this channel for quite a while. And notice for the next, before that storm, kind of like a mix between a little bit of chillier area, some spots, basically where cloud cover is. This is from that actual tropical storm, and you can see it brings a little bit of chillier air. Warm conditions to the north and into the northern U.S., but then out ahead of that system, you can see it really things warm up across the eastern U.S. Not for long, however, just for a little bit. And after that, we see a blast of air, chillier blast of air. Nothing too significant or as significant as we thought it would be. Just a regular kind of fall chill, probably in the 40s and 50s. I wouldn't say any records would be broken. But then after that, the GEFS models are showing that the second one can be more significant. You can see dipping into the southern U.S., Texas, especially getting hit hard by this one. According to these models, you could see right there some pretty good anomalies, some pretty negative anomalies. And if this is in Celsius, I want to remind you, so if this shows, -8, it'll probably be somewhere close to, I don't really know the conversion rate. 8 Celsius is probably like 20, I don't really know. I don't really know exactly, but like, basically the point being is, it's in Celsius, so it's always going to be a little bit greater in Fahrenheit. And if we were to look at the extended range, you could see basically the cool air kind of keeps itself throughout. Now let's look at the European model. European model has been pretty consistent as well, agreeing with the GEFS and the GFS models. Let's look at the higher dynamics 500 millibar height anomaly, and this is basically what we've been seeing for a while. A trough out ahead of that storm, and then we see that little dipping in a jet stream behind that system. European actually is has some pretty strong indications behind this, a little bit stronger than what the GFS is showing. So that will be interesting to see which model run is more accurate. And then we see that secondary dip in the jet stream. Following that secondary dip, we see even more chills. Okay, so here you can see, here's like that first one kind of rotates in a second one, and then we see possibly a bigger fourth one setting up across the west, and then eventually moving into the eastern US in a while, you know, out of this model's range, as this only goes out to 240 hours. Let's go to the 8 to 14 day outlook. You could see this one extends from the 26th through November 1st, below average for a good portion of the country, if not like 85 or 90% of the country, excluding the Northeast, Florida, and the Southwest. Precipitation drier than normal, and that's usual with colder air. We usually see drier conditions. And the Northeast is warm because of the nor'easters are bringing in the warm air and off the ocean, and obviously above average because of that. Let's look at the 6 to 10. This is a little bit less further out, 24 to 28. You can see temperature probability, a good portion of the country being below average across the country. You know, maybe not as much as the 8 to 14 day outlook, but still. Look at the Southwest though, very above average, and then we go into very below average. Stark contrast for sure, and this definitely leaves us with a pretty stormy pattern. You could see above average conditions with that one storm that may occur across the east with that huge slug of precip. I mean, that thing could produce a lot of flooding, and then below average for the Northwest. So thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.